Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to our panel. So when I was starting my career as a young chemical engineer, I had a colleague who used to like to tell a story about a boy who walks by a cave and he sees a dragon, and he taps the dragon with a pencil. The dragon stays asleep. And he said only the dumbest kid on the planet would say, you know what, I can linearly extrapolate that I can probably safely punch the dragon in the nose. I tell that story because over the course of my lifetime, atmospheric CO2 concentrations have gone from 325 to 415, almost 30%, and we have behaved like that dumb little kid. We have linearly extrapolated that first 10 ppm, 20 ppm didn't seem to do anything, and so we've just kept burping CO2 into the atmosphere, and we have now woken up the dragon. The nerd version of this is do not perturb volatile systems. $14 billion weather events last year, wildfires on the West Coast, the bomb vortex in the Midwest, which followed shortly the polar vortex in the Midwest, Midwest flooding every year is the hottest year on record. And in an increasingly volatile system, we depend increasingly on having accurate weather forecasting for our farmers, for folks on the coast, folks in, like my daughter, wondering how to seal the door when the bomb vortex was coming in. I am really concerned in light of that history that the Trump FY20 budget request slashes our ability to do weather forecasting. I think it's a 7% total cut. It's a $12.5 million cut in mesonet funding. Sorry, Dr. Fiebrick. I believe it's a halt in HPC resources for hydrological prediction, which is a concern about Midwest flooding, and almost a 10% cut in full-time employees at the National Weather Service. Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Uccellini, were you consulted on that budget request?
So we spent a lot of time working very hard trying to put this budget together, and in the situation that required really tough choices and trying to balance priorities, we made the decision to implement these cuts primarily on external grants. So we are going to.
But hang on, you say hard choices. Did you make a decision programmatically to cut those services, or were you told to meet a dollar value?
So we have a number that we have to work within, and
no, excuse me, you don't. You can propose whatever budget you want. We're going to decide whether you like it. Did you formally request that budget, or were you told by the Trump administration this was the budget you had to manage to?
So this budget was our formal request.
Okay, so you requested those cuts in programmatic resources.
But these cuts do not pertain to our actual operational capabilities. There's not going to be any degradation in our forecasting capability.
Did you formally model that?
Well, there will probably be a delay in some of the research capability, but that was the reason why we implemented the Earth Prediction Innovation Center. That was an additional $15 million to harness the external development.
No, but hang on. You just said this is not a diminution in the resource. I mean, I heard you talk about the importance of the HPC program, which is being cut. I heard a lot about mesonet, which is being cut. You're saying that there will be no diminution of our modeling resources. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, a lot of the research side of the compute we can actually work in the cloud. There's also another thing that we're looking at in the interest of doing acquisition of HPC is a cancellation liability fee. So that's something that's actually
okay. But we're tight on time. I'm asking a quantitative question, and you're giving me a qualitative answer. How do we know on this side of the dais? How does the American public know that in a world with more and more volatile weather, that these draconian cuts to the system are in fact going to maintain accuracy of weather forecasting in an increasingly volatile weather world?
We would not make any cuts that are going to decrease our forecasting skill. How we prove that to you, I suppose you would have to look at our model verification scores.
Can you share that analysis with the committee?
Oh, they're posted online. I can share the link.
If you are wrong, how quick is it to restore those programs?
Well, I'm confident I'm not going to be wrong, so that's a question that I can't answer.
I don't think any of us should be that hubristic, sir. I'm not that confident in my own abilities. Well, if we cut 110 people, how much institutional knowledge is lost? If we are no longer funding the HPC program and all of a sudden a flood comes through that we didn't predict, it's a little late to say, well, Dr. Jacobs said he was confident he wasn't going to be wrong. How do we get that confidence as we sit here and decide what the budget should be?
So these cuts were to extramural grant programs with cooperative institutes and programs like that. We're not making any cuts to our operational capability.
Well,
It's not going to get worse.
My time is up, but 110 employees is a concern. I yield back my time. Thank you.